Hey dreamers, it's time for me to do some more One Piece anime journaling, but before I did that, I thought it would be fun to do a little quick unpackaging here. I found these little things at Walmart, and I got the Brook one last time, and I found some more. So I did go ahead and pick up one, so let's open it up and see who we got this time. Hopefully it's not another Brook, even though I do love Brook. He is hilarious. So let's just go ahead and get right into this. Oh, we got Nami this time. Isn't it cute? These are so cute. So now we have Brook and we have Nami. So let's see if we'll be able to add to our collection. Soon I'm hoping to get a Zoro. But anyway, that's it for the unpackaging of the One Piece thing. And we'll get right into the journaling. Hey dreamers, this is Jade. Welcome back to my channel. I'm here to continue on with my journey through the One Piece anime, and where we left off was meeting Silver's Rayleigh, who rescued Cammy from the auction house, and the worst generation, basically, which includes Luffy, Trafalgar Law, and Eustace Kid, taking out the Marines and whatnot. Anyway, currently the Strawhats have met back up at Shakky's bar with Silver's Rayleigh, and this is the guy that Hachi said can cook their ship so they can get to Fishman Island. But what we find out is that Silver's Rayleigh, or Dark King Rayleigh, was actually the first mate of Goldie Roger, the former king of the pirates. And so they have a discussion about stuff that's going on. Usopp wants him to tell him everything about the One Piece and da-da-da-da, but Luffy is not having it because he's like, if it's not an adventure, I don't want it, so don't tell me anything about it. I want to just, go with the flow and see how everything goes. So after promising to cook their ship, he gives them a Viva card saying that they should meet back here in about 2 days because it's getting dangerous out there. Admiral Kizaru has shown up to the archipelago of Sabaody, and it's a lot of shenanigans going on. So all of the pirates that have shown up on Sabaody at this time to get to the New World are considered the worst generation. So we have a whole lot of different factions going on, and you'll learn more about them during the course of the rest of the anime. However, the ones that we're going to focus on right now is Eustace Kid and his crew, and Trafalgar Law and his crew called the Heart Pirates. And so everybody, and Luke, of course, Luffy and the Straw Hats, and they're all considered the worst generation, as I said. So the Marines have shown up on the Sabaody archipelago, and they have dispatched Pacifistas, which is this big, huge guy. Remember Kuma from Thriller Bark? Well, basically they have modeled these Pacifistas after Kuma, except they have kind of different powers or whatever than Kuma. They can't like expand air, but they can shoot like laser beams and stuff out of their mouths. And so they have dispatched different Pacifistas to kind of take out all of the different crews or whatever. And so Luffy and the Straw Hats go up against their own Pacifista, and this thing is crazy strong, and it takes all of them to try and get rid of this Pacifista. They're able to finally get it down. However, everyone is weak and damaged and hurt, and then the real Kuma shows up, and they're like, great, now we have to try to get this thing down. And it's not gonna happen. And so one by one, Kuma comes and disappears all of the Straw Hats. And when I say one by one, I mean one by one. And I do believe Zoro is the first one to go. And then just one after the other, the Straw Hats disappear. And Luffy is devastated because he couldn't protect his crew. And he just lost them all just by the wave of a hand. And then Luffy is the last one to disappear and go flying. And so this is like, what in the world is going on? And Luffy finds himself just kind of floating through space and time, and he ends up on this place called Amazon Lily. Amazon Lily is a place kind of like in what's that place, Wonder Woman, where it's just a island full of women warriors or whatever. And so this is where he ends up, and of course he's not supposed to be there because he's a man. But they don't really understand at first that he is a man, and so they just take him in and try to feed him and stuff like that. But then once they find out he's a man, they put him behind bars. So he wakes up naked, and of course the ladies on this island, they have never seen a man, so they're very curious as to Luffy and his anatomy, and they're asking, "What's that thing in the middle there?" And he's like, "Oh, very proud. That's my family jewels or whatever." And they're like, "Oh, I want some jewels." And Luffy is like, "Y'all need to chill, okay? Chill on that." So they give him some clothes, and he inadvertently angers them for some reason. I'm not sure exactly what the reason is right now, but he angers them. But he ends up breaking out of his cell. But they have taken his Viva card. He needs his Viva card to get back to his friends, or at least to Sabaody Archipelago, to find Rayleigh, to find his boat and whatever. And he's hoping, since he actually flew off into space and time and ended up somewhere, that the rest of his crew is alive and well somewhere, wherever they ended up, and that they're all going to eventually meet back up on the Sabaody Archipelago to go to the New World or whatever. And so he wants to get back there, and so he takes one of the warriors hostage. I think her name is Marguerite, to get his Viva card back. The rest of them are trying frantically to find him and kill him before their leader comes back to the base, to Amazon Lily, and their leader is called Boa Hancock. Now Boa, as she's coming back, and she's called the Snake Princess, is met by the Marines. Boa Hancock is actually one of the 7 warlords of the sea. So she serves, I'm saying that in quotation marks, the Marines when they need her. And so the Marine guy comes to inform her that a war is going to be fought and broken out soon, and that she needs to come and do her duty to the Marines or whatever. And she refuses. She's like, "I'm not doing that." So yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to go ahead and get that out there and clear that up. So Luffy is attacked by Marguerite, and he breaks out. He's like, "Okay, I gotta go. I gotta find a boat and get back to my crew." And his idea is to go up to the tallest building he finds, because he figures he'll find somebody there that can lend him a boat. And he gets to the top of wherever Boa Hancock is, and she's currently in the bath. And he lands in the bathtub somehow, and he sees the symbol on her back. So she tries to use her devil fruit on him, which is the love fruit, which basically makes everyone fall in love with her, and she can turn people to stone using this love fruit. However, Luffy is completely unaffected by her, and so she takes him captive. And there's this whole thing about why people can't see the princess and her sisters when they're taking a bath or be near them or whatever. Something about a Gorgon. If anybody looks on their back, they will be frozen or turned to stone or whatever. And that's a cover up for something else. So she takes him captive, and he is to do battle with her 2 sisters in the ring. And Luffy is like, "Okay, bring it on, let's do it." So Boa turns 3 of her soldiers into stone statues, because they were the ones that helped Luffy, not knowing that he was a man. And so she blames them, and she's like, "Okay, we're gonna go commence with this this battle here." And Luffy is like, "Okay, give me a second." And so he takes all 3 of them and moves them. He's like, "They're your friends. I don't understand why you're doing this," or whatever. But he takes them and moves them somewhere that they can't get broken in the middle of this battle. And so he ends up battling with, first of all, they try to sick this big large cat on him, and he takes him out in one blow. And so now it's Luffy versus the 2 sisters, and he is definitely holding his own or whatever, and everything's going good. He's doing whatever he needs to do, and he does this. There's something that he shouts at one point and pretty much lays everybody out, in the arena. And so they're like, Hancock is like shocked and appalled, I say. And so the battle continues, and something happens, and one of the sisters ends up like laying between the arena and like the battlefield or whatever, and her back is exposed. And so Luffy jumps on her back, and she thinks he's mocking her or whatever. And he's like, you don't want people seeing this symbol, correct? He's like, "I'm trying to help you here." And so like Hancock and the sisters are surprised by this, and so they clear everyone out of the arena, saying that the Gorgon eyes could get them or whatever. And so once they do that, Boa and he tells Boa what he needs as far as getting a ship or whatever. And Boa's like, "I'll make you a deal. I can either give you a ship, or I can turn these people back to real people. The people that she turned to stone or whatever." And he's like, "Okay, you need to turn them back then." And so she is surprised that he decides that that's the route he wants to go. And so
she basically falls in love with him. It's a mess. It's a mess. Okay, let me tell. When I tell you, Boa is delusional about Luffy. She's very my man, my man, my man, and Luffy is just like, what? You know what I'm saying? Matter of fact, he calls her Hammock. He doesn't even call her Hancock. He calls her Hammock, and it's a mess. It's funny, but anyway, moving on. And so after that, they explain the symbol on the back, what it means, and they had been captured when they were younger, and they were slaves, and they were released by this guy named Tiger King, and so they just wanted to let Luffy know or whatever. And Hancock, having fallen in love with Luffy, agrees he needs to get to well, actually, I'm getting ahead of myself. He does want to reunite with his crew or whatever. However, he sees in the paper that his brother Ace is supposed to be executed at Marineford, and so he's like, I need to get there. I need to get there to rescue my brother. And so Hancock finally agrees with the Marines to go to where they need to go, where she needs to go to help with the war or whatever. And this way, she can help Luffy get to Marineford on the Marine boat. So she has to hide him under herself to get him on this Marine ship and whatever. And you know Luffy too is crazy, so he's eating everything in sight, and she is helping with that or whatever. But the first stop is she convinces the ship to go to Impel Down, because that's where he has found out that his brother is being held. So he hopes to go to Impel Down and rescue his brother before he even gets to Marineford. And so that is basically what is going on with there. And now we get to see what's going on where the other Straw Hats have landed. Excuse me. Nami is in this place called Weatherier. Frankie ended up on this place. It's like a snow place with like this lab that used to be owned by Dr. Vegapunk. And then you have the others. Usopp ends up on the something islands. I can't remember. But it's just like a jungle, and basically the island is trying to beat them or whatever. He meets this guy. Zoro ends up in this weird castle or whatever, and he finds Perona from Thriller Bark there. And also Brook in this place where they are worshiping him as Satan. And Poor Chopper is in this place where the birds, these huge birds, and the humans are fighting against each other. So we'll get more into that as the series goes on. And yeah. So while Ace waits to be executed, he's being held in Impel Down, which is a very secure prison by the Marines. And Garp, Vice Admiral Garp, goes to see him and talk to him, which is Luffy's grandfather, and kind of like a pseudo grandfather for Ace as well. And you'll see why once we get to that part, but we haven't gotten there yet. So yeah. Anyway, he goes to see Ace and talk to him about everything, and he's kind of upset at the circumstances that Ace finds himself in right now, and there's really not much that he can do about it, seeing that he is a Marine himself. But at this time, Luffy and Hancock arrive, and Hancock smuggles Luffy into Impel Down under her cloak. And so we have Luffy now in Impel Down running amok trying to find his brother to release him from prison. But pretty much immediately, Luffy's cover is blown because he runs into Buggy the Clown on the first floor of the prison, who is actually trying to escape the prison. But of course, there are guards and there are animals and all kinds of stuff running after them. So they decide to team up to defeat them and continue on. Buggy is very reluctant to team up with Luffy because he's trying to escape, while Luffy is trying to go into the prison to get his brother. So we have these two at cross purposes. So Buggy and Luffy fight their way through the entrance to level 2, going down through level 1 to Crimson Hell, where the lowest ranking criminals are held. To convince Buggy to help, Luffy gives Buggy his armband, which basically is a key to like some treasure. And if you don't know anything about Buggy, is that he loves him. He's like Nami, he loves him some treasure, and so he wants the treasure, and so he decides to help Luffy to get the armband. And so they continue on down to level 2, and I do believe that Ace is being held on level 5, so they have a ways to go. Hancock and the others finally reach the office of Magellan, who is the warden of this prison, and he has eaten the devil fruit. I do believe it's called the venom fruit, and it allows him to create and control various forms of poison and grants him absolute immunity to it. So he can just produce poisons and whatever, and these poisons will kill you, okay? So yeah, anyway, moving on. Meanwhile, Luffy and Buggy find level 2 to be filled with wild animals, but Luffy manages to handle them without too much trouble. Buggy manages to unlock several of the prisoner cells, and the two fugitives are joined by Mr. 3. Y'all remember Mr. 3 from Baroque Works? The man with the wax fruit that tried to take out the Strawhats? So he's now in the prison as well, and he has joined Buggy and Luffy on their journey to level 5 to find Ace. Now here is where for some reason the animators decided to take a break from Impel Down and go completely into this other story, which I do believe is filler, and so it's like placed right in the middle of Impel Down. So we're going to get into that, and basically Luffy, Zoro, Usopp, and Sanji arrive on this island called Little East Blue. The rest of everybody else, they're still on the ship, and basically Little East Blue is like a smaller version of the East Blue, and where a lot of the people came from. So we have like a small village where Usopp comes from, and then we have Windmill Village where Luffy is from, and then they have the dojo where Zoro grew up at, and etc, etc. And so yeah, we find the Little East Blue here in this this filler episode or whatever, and it goes on for a few episodes, so we'll continue on. So the boys have gone off to their favorite places from the Little East Blue, and they're just having a good old time and whatever. And Nami is like, what the hell is going on? Because she's back on the boat, and no one has come to say anything or anything like that. So she leaves and goes to the island herself, where she runs into the Oranami fan club. So these people have a fan club for Nami, as I said, because all of them came from the East Blue. Luffy, Sanji, Zoro, Usopp, and Nami are East Blue people, and the rest of the crew they picked up along the way. So yeah, so Nami is like, okay, what is happening here? What is going on? And she goes to find the boys or whatever. As I said, she runs into her fan club, and then finally these Amigo pirates arrive, and Luffy gets into a fight with Corto, but then the captain Largo shows up and attacks Luffy as well. The boys take on these pirates, and meanwhile Nami takes the townspeople and kind of leads them through the tunnels to get them away. However, what she's doing is having them kind of circle back around so they can help defeat the Amigo pirates, like by throwing rocks and sticks and all that kind of stuff. And so basically everybody ends up eventually defeating the Amigo pirates. They get up out of there, and then Boss ends up saving Luffy from falling into the sea, because you know Luffy cannot stay in the sea because of his devil fruit or whatever. And then they have their little rematch that lasts for hours. Yoko, which is the girl who is basically the companion to Boss, and Nami discuss their respective past, because they kind of have a similar past. Her dad was a Marine, I believe, but he ended up passing away, and she's just kind of been on this island with these people and with Boss looking out for her, and she wants to be a Marine, and she has a thing against pirates, but now she sees that some pirates are actually really nice, and everything like that. So that's basically the break from Impel Down. I don't know why they thought, I think this was the lead up to a movie or whatever, and I can't remember the name of the movie at this moment, but yeah. And so we broke from Impel Down, and hopefully we'll be getting back to that soon. So we're back at Impel Down, and Luffy and his crew are running, and they run into this Sphinx creature, which is very powerful. Something provokes it, and it ends up trying to attack them. However, it ends up breaking the floor, and they end up dropping down to level 3, which of course they want to go further and further down. So yeah, and in Ace's cell, he is locked up with the warlord of the sea, Jinbei, and he tells Ace why he attempted to free him and his debt to Whitebeard, which is Ace's captain. And so yeah, that's what's happening there, and then we will continue on. So on this new floor, Luffy ends up running into none other than Mr. 2, Bon Clay, who became friends with Luffy and his crew during the course of Alabasta. Of course, he was an enemy at first, but by the end of it, they became good friends. And so he has been locked up in this jail as well. And they are just so happy to see each other that Buggy and Mr. 3 break off and leave, because Buggy, as I said before, they trying to get out of the prison while Luffy is trying to go lower and lower. So Mr. 2 decides to help Luffy get to his brother and everything like that. Hancock has finally reached the floor that Ace is on, and she ends up somehow causing a ruckus so she can give him a message letting him know that Luffy is in the prison and he intends to rescue his brother. Ace is shocked and appalled by this, but he has the message now, and so yeah, he knows that Luffy is coming after him, and why would he expect anything less? Now, Bon Clay also has another purpose for wanting to go to level 5. He wants to meet Ivankov, king of the Kamabaka kingdom or whatever, and says that she can do miracles or whatever. So definitely he wants to go continue on down to that and to help Luffy find his brother. And so Magellan has been alerted that Luffy is in the prison, and so he goes looking for him and gathers forces and everything. Magellan ends up finding Luffy and Bon Clay and them, and so Buggy and Mr. 3 ran away. Bon Clay ran away as well, warning Luffy about the poison. But Luffy, of course, is trying to get to his brother. He will do anything. He fights Magellan, but he ends up basically being poisoned. And apparently, he has 24 hours before he will descend and end up passing away. And so Bon Clay is so convicted by running away from Luffy that he ends up turning back to go and rescue him. Luffy by this time has been taken by Magellan and taken to some prison outside, like where it's super cold. So at first it was super hot and like they in a hell like scape or whatever, and now it's like super cold or whatever. And he goes to find him, and he does end up rescuing Luffy from his cell. But Luffy, of course, is poisoned, and then these wolves like surround them, but Luffy has enough strength to beat off the wolves, and then somebody from Ivanka, I'm gonna just say Yvonne, because I can't keep saying it, okay? Yvonne's camp finds them and brings them back to this place that Bon Clay was trying to find with the Ivankov, okay? So they call it Paradise in Hell. Now, this Paradise in Hell is basically a place for queer people to gather and whatever like that. And so I love this scene with Ivankov. She's already tried to help Luffy. Bon Clay has like basically begged her. And so he is in recovery. It's supposed to take 2 days, but Ace's execution is in 2 hours. And Luffy has to have the will to live. Basically, she has a hormone fruit, and she injected Luffy with hormones. However, the treatment will take 10 years off of his lifespan, and so we are continuing on. Luffy is in absolute agony, but with the cheers of the queers, he comes out of his treatment, and he's ready to go. They just need to feed him, and he's ready to continue on to try to find his brother and get him out of Impel Down. Meanwhile, Ace is taken into custody to be transferred to Marineford, where the execution will take place. He tries to fight back, but is ultimately subdued. And I made a mistake before. Ace was actually being held on level 6. Anyway, Luffy and Yvonne finally make it, and the rest of the crew that's with them finally make it to level 6. However, they just missed Ace, just missed him. Anyway, Jinbei is in the cage, and he and Luffy exchange words, and they talk about everything, and Jinbei volunteers to come with them all, because Ace had asked Jinbei to look after Luffy, and Jinbei was like, I don't give my loyalty freely, but there's something in Luffy that he likes, and decides to throw his support in the ring for Luffy to end up rescuing his brother. And so that is pretty much it for this. If you have any comments or questions about anything, please leave those below. I trust you all have been safe and well, and I will catch you all in the next video. Bye.